All right.
Is it recording?
We're here.
Oh, B'Sheno Shlama.
Shlama lachem shenati lochem. Where are we today, Freddie?
We are, I think, I always say this after every episode, but I think this probably will be my favourite episode. This has been in the making for a very long time.
I wouldn't be speaking to someone.
We've been coordinating this for years before you even came to London.
It was when we first had the idea of doing this podcast project, and we listed out names of who we wanted to get on. It was like the top two. It was
Top two.
We'll get this person on, and it was like we'll definitely have him on.
This was conversed whilst we were in Accra during our trip this year.
Okay.
So as soon as we had it in plan and the foundations were set, we were like, we need to get Mar Awraham to come down and have the conversation with us. So thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with me, and you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're very busy, and I appreciate you had a busy day.
Yeah, we had the Raza this morning at St. Mary's. It was a beautiful day. Everyone coming together, sharing in the gift of life, and just fellowship together. It was just beautiful. Yeah.
Amazing. So, as if you haven't guessed already, our guest for today is Mar Awraham Youkhanis, our bishop in Western Europe.
Coming all the way from Sydney, down under. So thank you for making your way all the way here.
Just for this.
I have a flight to catch after. So
Can we wrap this up quickly?
Make it quick.
Don't put that in there.
We'll cut that out. We'll make sure we cut that out.
But no, honestly, it's a pleasure. Thank you for hosting us in your house. As you can see, his incredible library, which I've commended him a lot on this.
It's been years of collecting. From you have liturgical books and historical books, theology. I wanted to have them in Qurba at hand, but then even for people to come around and just have a read and to see what's here. So
We'll have to get a library card and sign up for membership.
Yeah, but I really want to say that you guys are doing incredible work with the podcast. And,
thank you so much.
With just bringing the right people to share in their experiences and to expand the exposure of our Assyrian name. So it's really important if people have a platform such as yours to use it in the right way and to help one another and encouraging each other. So
thank you so much.
Proud of you guys.
Thank you so much.
It.
Thank you.
Should we get straight into
Let's
the quick
get
fire?
straight into this. So we started this kind of quickfire
little segment,
little kind of warm up for the podcast. So every guest we're trying to have is going to do quickfire of about probably 5 questions, and then the first thing that pops into your head, you answer it.
You can't think too much. The first thing that
comes to your head.
Away.
This might be dangerous.
We'll edit out worst case.
So, are we ready for the quickfire?
Let's do it.
Yeah? Okay. Kileche. Khorme la Joza.
So, back in Australia, I was Goza team.
Okay.
When I came to London, Medlin's Khorme converted me, so I have to switch teams now. So I would say
you switch allegiances.
That's my great auntie.
That's a great auntie.
So thanks, Medlin.
That recipe's been running through generations.
I can tell. So, Khorme.
Khorme, okay. On the theme of food, what's your favourite Assyrian dish?
Assyrian dish. I'd have to say Bushalit Gilali. Is my favorite. Of course, my diet's very limited in what I can eat. But I think Bushalit Gilal is really good. You've got all the Gilali, all the greens, and then the mesta. It's really good mesta. And I got Mum's recipe actually. And her recipe when I was coming to London, one of the last things that she gave me was her recipe book.
Yeah. But
the issue with it is there's no quantities and how much I should be putting in. So she just and I called her once. I said, "Mum, how much mesta should I be putting in the bushara?" She said, "Well, Khina, great. This
Thanks,
is great logic.
What does that mean?
So I tried it once and it came out pretty good.
I feel like mums always have no sense of measurement when it comes to the food that they make. It's purely by eye and it's precision.
Because they say pshimma. Pshimma means like just Yeah, so you just don't know.
Just follow the instinct.
Do you know bushala takes, you have to stir it for a very long time because it ruins it spoils it if you don't keep stirring it.
So you have to be quite attentive.
So it's good. So you have to your bicep and triceps have to be quite strong.
It's a good workout plan.
Good Assyrian woman.
Forearms and arms like this.
They used to use that same arm to smack their kids.
And the same spoon that she.
So bushalat galala would be my go-to. Actually, I've got some in the fridge if you guys want some later.
Well, we have a quick break between the
Actually, Alice gave me some this morning, so yeah.
Sorted.
Very good, very good. Chai sada or qawa?
So I'm gonna upset many Assyrians, but I have to be qawa team.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is that just because Friday gave you some qawa today when he came in? We can talk after.
I like a good coffee. I like tea too, but the coffee's my
coffee's
go-to.
good.
We've been trying to get Gessie to submerge into the coffee community and space in London, and I feel like we've been to a few. We've had a few good spots. To be fair,
we have.
We need to find some more recommendations.
He's a secret barista where he doesn't want to.
To be fair, I had a coffee made specially from Gessie, and I have to say, it's quite sensational.
He did latte art as well. He did a cross on it.
Yeah, one was a cross. There was a swan on the other one.
It's like I'm forcing you to sell my coffee. It has to. It's good.
Why? I guess you coffee now.
This would be contentious. Best Assyrian village.
Oh, so Al-Qush is one of my favorite villages.
You heard that.
The reason why is because I've been to Iraq so many times, to Atra, and every time I go up to Al-Qush, it just reconnects me with my patron saint growing up in Sydney, which was St. Hermas Cathedral.
Yeah.
So growing up in Sydney, I always hear about Aban Hormus and his life and the miracles that he performed. So when I went to Al-Qush the first time, it just gave me that that feeling of appreciation. So Al-Qush is the mother of all villages.
I was gonna say it must have been amazing during the youth conference this year to have taken the youth there, la?
Yeah, we had about 300 youth that were representing pretty much the whole world. We had people from America, Canada, India, had the Middle East. We had Australia, Europe. So we had pretty much Russia, China. So we had everyone, and they loved it. We had a really good conference. Great speakers. It was a good program, but then they loved the just the opportunity to actually see Atra, to go and see the villages and families. And Surai Ika Jomi, they just want to dance. I remember we were driving up to one of the Matwat in Berwa, and one of the buses broke down. So it was about 13 coaster buses. And then all of a sudden it's 49-50 degree heat, and I just see Yalit youth Baslaya from the bus, and I said, "What's going on, Mutuna?" Then all of a sudden I see a chiga in the middle of nowhere. I said, "Okay, everyone back on your buses. We need to get a move on." So they had an amazing time. For most of them, it was the first time that they were actually going to Atra. It was something that they never thought that they would do. In Ashkira Shemtala, the church was able to do that, and every 3 years we're going to be having an international youth conference. So the next one will be in 2026.
Wow.
Well, God willing, we'll see you there, la.
Yeah. I have to start planning I've got another year of switching off from planning conferences, and then we need to initiate that again.
Start thinking about it again.
Start planning, yeah.
Fanny actually just told me before we were recording that he would head the planning for the conference as well. So
wonderful.
if you'd like to put Fanny forward for that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we can talk offline. Let's take that offline.
I'll just send you a few emails right now.
Can we chat after?
A million emails.
It's like checklist, to-do list. Can you please get this done? Contact this person.
Might need a new co-host next time.
Sorry. I'm available if you want to. We can switch.
I see how it is.
That's amazing. And the last quickfire, I say quickfire, but it's good conversations. Another contentious one. London or Sydney?
I picked this question.
Yeah.
You're recording then.
Yep. We can do that. That's fine.
Well, Sydney is special.
Yeah.
Because I grew up there. Community is incredible.
Yeah.
Many memories, family. London is that for me now. Yeah, not to take away from Sydney. I love Sydney. London is that you're my family. God has blessed me with an incredible community of people. So families here, churches here, memories being made every day. Seeing the children grow older. And 4 years ago when I baptized a few of the children, the babies, and today they're 4-year-olds running around the church. It's things like that make you feel that you're a part of a community.
Yeah, of course.
So, sorry, Sydney, London.
I didn't ask Essie to say London either.
I didn't say anything about Al-Qush, and we didn't say anything about London. Amazing. Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. It's a good warm up. I
feel like we're a bit more relaxed now.
Yeah, a bit more relaxed now. Yeah. We'll start probably off with like the simple question of who is Mar Awraham Youkhanis?
Okay. So
where did it all begin?
Right. So I was born in Basra in the south of Iraq in 1989. So I'm still young. My dad, who was trained, has studied medicine in Iraq.
Yeah.
He served in the army for a really long time, throughout the whole 8-9 years between Iran and Iraq. We did a khidmat Gujesh. After that, my family decided to leave in 1992, so after the Kuwait War. We spent about 3 years in Athens.
Oh, wow.
So between the ages of 3 and 6, me and my brothers and parents had met. We lived in Igalio. So it's funny, whenever I go back to Athens now, because Athens, Greece, is a part of my diocese of Western Europe.
Yeah.
I go to the same hall that I would attend for Raza as a kid, as a child. And today I'm there doing Raza and trying to care for the community. So it's really, for me, the parish in Athens is really special. So I spent 3 years there. A lot of refugees came in and out. Mm-hmm. I remember Dad would try his best to help people when they were feeling sick. Me and my brothers would sit in the living room, and there'd be a long line of people out from the outside coming in, just saying, So he would try his best with the resources that he had, limited resources, to help people. So we had a pretty good time in Athens. And as a family, I think it's really important when you're together in highs and lows. Being in that refugee status for those years, it made us as kids really appreciative for what we have now. So 3 years in Ioannina in Greece, and then we made our way to Sydney. So parents wanted to really go to America because Mum's side is there, and Dad wanted to move to the US. After many refusals of no, you can't come, and we applied to Australia, and they gave us the green light and the visa to move. So I moved to Sydney in 1995.
Okay.
And grew up in Sydney, went to public schools with friends, grew up in church, and got into my ministry quite early as a shamasha. But yeah, born in Basra, grew up in Sydney, and living now in London.
Amazing.
Just to kind of quickly give you
that was a quick summary of your
very
journey.
good summary. You've done that before, haven't you?
Guess he's had a few interviews in his time. I was just going to ask you a quick question going back to when you first got into the ministry as a shamasha. How young were you?
So in 2006, you have to do the math.
2006, okay.
Yeah, I was ordained a lector. I remember I was in the choir. So when we moved to Sydney, Surah at the end, it's incredible how faith for them is always the priority. It's always number one. It's about faith and Christ. So when we moved to Sydney, we lived in a very modest townhouse. Had Oyume, where the second day we went to the local church, which was Rabban Church, the cathedral in Sydney. And from that day on, we have a photo, it's a family photo together, standing at the church, meeting Qasha Ashur, Dano Qasha Yonan Alamanakhle was the Archdeacon in Sydney. And since then, got into Sunday school, Assyrian school, violin school, and all these sorts of things that were happening in Sydney, in the community. So I was, 2006, was when I finished from the choir with my mum and my brothers. Was going downstairs. Qasha Ashur, who's an archdeacon in Sydney now, he said to my mum, in another month or two, we're going to ordain your son lector.
Wow.
Yeah, I just looked up at him and said,
okay.
Okay. I saw it as a calling, as a vocation. So that was in Eid al-Shane, Palm Sunday, 2006. And then November Qodash Aita that year, I became a subdeacon. And then 2007, the year after, I became a deacon on Dukhran at Mar Awraham in commemoration. And that same day, my brother, who was Qasha Rahman now, became a lector that same day. So we always used to go to church together. And we did everything together as brothers in ministry.
Obviously, you and your brother had come together and grown in the church together. How was it progressing with Qasha Rahman, like side by side?
No, it was amazing because when I became a lector and a subdeacon, then he was very close to age, with me. So I took him to church with me when Halaleh was seen my lector, and he was not a lector yet. And then we just used to go to church at like 5 a.m. every Sunday.
Wow. Because
I used to help Qasha Ashur with the preparations before Raza started.
Yeah.
So and my brother would be in Slot at Lilia or Slot Sapra. And then once we kind of progressed in Khidmat in Darghe, we saw there was the need for more youth ministry, and then Marminas, his beatitude, the Archbishop of Australia and New Zealand, he appointed me as the youth chaplain for Sydney and Melbourne.
Okay.
And then that youth ministry, we started working on a lot of community events, youth leadership projects, Mediana, to bring young people into the church. And we did that together, and then we started the children's ministry together, the ASICA, the Children's Association for Bible Studies for Kids, because we realized that there was an issue with youth ministry, and just not in Australia, and just globally. Issue being that as a church, we always try to focus on youth, which is, of course, very, very important, but to not allow ourselves to get to that point of saying, what can we do to bring these youth to church? We need to start with children. So min surote, and we said we need to instill that that love to read, to pray, to come to church, so that they can understand the reason for us being so close to our community. With the youth ministry, children's ministry, we did that together. We started new projects. We used to sit around with the first youth committee. It was just a group of friends that we put together. And we thought, okay, people are going to the Easter show in Sydney. Why don't we do our own Easter show? And we said, let's stay away from the word Easter. Let's call it the Resurrection Festival. To back to the roots of the faith. And then we had festivals, and thousands of people would come. And there's the carols by the cathedral, and events, walkathons, charity drives. There's so much that's going on there, which is pretty much what I've replicated, by God's grace in Ilacha and London. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah. Going back to right now, obviously you are a bishop of the Western Europe. I want to hear about your journey to faith, because obviously as Assyrians, a majority of us, about 99% of us, have grown up in the church, or our identity is in the church and in Christ, and it goes back all the way to Jonah. So I want to understand your journey to faith. You're brought up in the church, but when did it click for you that your faith is actually real to you, and it brought you to where you are right now in terms of submitting your life to Christ and to the church?
So I think it's, like you said, Fadi, it starts very early, being Assyrian and understanding and appreciating that the church is such a big part of who we are. It's that mother hen that gathers us. And if it wasn't for the Assyrian church, where would you be able to bring together the Assyrians? Faith and all, of course, which is the number one important thing. But then as a community, as a very distinct community, being Assyrians, how do we bring people together? And we see that many people and groups try to do that, but it never works, because you can't bring everyone together. When the church tries to do something, it has this power to, it's God's grace to bring people together. So being very close to the church from the get-go, I think it's parents, of course, mum and dad. Dad worked very hard to provide for us, being a family, refugee family. And then trying to find ourselves in a new country, new language, new work, new life, new schools. I remember the day that we started primary school. I started year 1, my brother Qasha started Kindi, and Ninos, my older brother, I'm the middle child.
Yeah.
I think I give off middle child vibes anyway. When we were getting dropped off, we thought that our parents were going to leave us there and not come back for us.
Ever.
I don't know what it was. So my brothers and I, we were like hanging on to the arms and legs of our mum and dad, praying, crying, saying, "La shoqituna laka, please, we don't want to stay here.
We'll behave."
I don't know, as children, because at that point I was 6, maybe unknowingly being exposed to urkhate or aqaraqa, we thought that it would have, I don't remember it, but it probably would have been a traumatic type experience at that point. So a new life meant challenges, of course. And from the get-go, mum really instilled within us in church and faith, and she taught me and she showed me Christ through her life, through her sacrifice as any mother, of course, through her reading of God's word, of praying. And she'd gather my brothers and I together every night before we'd go to bed, and we'd pray the Holy Mari together, the prayer before sleep. So she would take us to Tuesday night Bible studies. His Beatitude Marminis would do preaching in Assyrian every Tuesday. Ladies would say to my mum, "Qamut mayu ya qamra duna sure khtita la qarte la mendi damkhi." But she always kept every Tuesday. She took us to Bible study. I remember one day it was raining, as it does here, and it was thundering, and we didn't have a car. We were Tazakhut here. We lived on Mimosa Road, just near Rabban Hormus. But Marmis would do the preaching in St. Mary's in Fairfield, Smithfield. Mum said, "We're still going." My brothers and I thought that this is great. We're going to stay home tonight. We're going to relax. No church tonight. And then she said, "No." She said, "We're going." We said, She said, "We're going to take the bus." Bus. We went to church for the sermon. His Beatitude spoke. Whilst His Beatitude was presenting his sermon, the lights went out. And then it just went all pitch black, and then my brothers and I thought, okay, great, now we're gonna go home. That's done. Early finish. And then even Marmina said, no, we're gonna bring candles. We're gonna hold the candles. We're gonna read God's word by candlelight, and that's what we did. And we were kids, and we would sleep pretty much halfway through. And as kids, naturally, we'd kind of put our heads on our mother's shoulder, and we'd fall asleep during the sermon. And then people would say to my mom, "Why are you doing that? You don't bring them." She said, "I'd rather they sleep inside the church than sleep at home. They're always at home, but at least they can be here, and maybe something will touch them, and they will grow." So mum was a big influence in showing the true, genuine way of worship, and I guess everyone has to say good things about their moms, but mum is very special to me. When I was, I would say about 12, one day Marmi, his Beatitude, he came, they were building St. Hermes Assyrian Primary School behind Edessa Hall. So at Rabban Hormus, you've got the main church, you've got a hall, Edessa Hall, and then there was empty land behind, going back to the boundary. So Tama, they wanted to build a primary school, an elementary school. And they started doing that in the early 2000s, I would say. I was sick at home from school. And mum was going to church to help with the kado keleche that they used to do. Anyway, so mum said, "Atit mini, so I went with mum. I was sitting there, and his Beatitude was coming in to meet with the engineers, the architects. He comes in, says hello to the ladies, and sees me sitting there. I was only about 12. Calls me over, and he says, I said, Ramson, because my birth name is Ramson. And I kissed his ring, and he puts his hand on my head and he says, when you turn 21, I'll ordain you a priest.
Wow.
And he went and I sat back down, and afterwards at home I said to my mum, what was that about? I was 12. She said, she always used to remind me never to forcefully take something that's not yours, to pray if it's God's will, as our Lord teaches us, that man cannot take anything by his own will, only if it's given to him from above. And that was the logic that I always used to pray about. I had the desire to serve. I always prayed to serve. But then the big question mark would be, but what if you don't want me to serve? That would kind of always keep my heart in two places.
Yeah.
But then when I turned 21, my cousin was getting married in Sweden. So we went on a holiday, came back, and then his beatitude was, I think he had a trip to Lebanon, because he's also the Metropolitan of Lebanon. So so I was Shamasha, and I was driving him. I would always be with him. So driving him back home, and he was going to get ready to go to Lebanon. He said to me, Archbishopric, he said, Shamasha, actually, من بيروت من لبنان بسامنخ, I'll ordain you.
Wow.
And then as I was driving, I turned to him and I said, I'm already a deacon. What more is there? And he said, Qasha. And he said, Bayit out Qasha. And I said, in Basmaluch and Bayitun, I'm ready. If you don't, I'm not. Whatever you decide. He said, okay, and that's at 21. He came back and I came back from the wedding of my cousin in Sweden. And then I was ordained on the 22nd of August 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. So that year it was Shanet at Mar Awraham Metropolitan. He passed away in February of 2010. And he held a very special place in everyone's hearts as a community, and people still talk of him today. So even he left a big void within the community. When I was coming to be ordained a priest in August, his beatitude said to me, and I said, okay, I'll think of a name. And because it was still but then I thought, that's a nice name. It means a potent utterance in its etymology. And I said to his beatitude, I said, how's nursing? He said, good. And that was that.
Wow. And how did you feel when you were asked if you were ready to become a Qasha? Did you feel like you were ready, or was it just trusting?
No, I was not ready as well.
21 years old. That's
I it's all very vague now when I look back. I don't know if I could actually come to kind of dissect how I felt in the time. There was a moment where I felt really low and a bit broken, and doubtful actually of myself. And I was young. I was 21. I was still at uni doing architecture, and this all happened within my graduation semester as I was in Praga, and then I was going to start working as an architect and all. One day I remember I was praying about this, and I was asking God for guidance and for help, and to see if this is what He wants of me. Then one day this one of our parishioners in Sydney, she saw a dream of me at Rabban Holmes. It's a very long dream, but I'll make it very short. She sees قد أنا ينبريك, and I was praying before the altar at St. Hermas Cathedral, and Christ comes out in the flesh. He comes out from the altar, from the curtain. He picks me up and puts a ring on my finger, and he embraces me, he hugs me. And Mum, this lady was telling Mum her dream. And then I remember Mum spoke to me and told me about this dream. And I said, wow, I've been praying about this, thinking, okay, God, how am I going to do this? Like Moses, when God was sending him to save his people, he said, why are you sending me? I think I felt that, of course, being at 21, I was very young and maybe hadn't really thought of everything, all the aspects with today's maybe rationale. After that dream or and mom told me, I felt this relief. I felt at peace and more confident. And as the years went on, it's learning the craft of khidmat, knowing how to do the raza, which is one of the complicated aspects of the khidmat. But then again, I think in the years of serving the community in Sydney, about 9-10 years of priesthood in Sydney, it just became a lot of community work, youth, children, and connecting with people, making people feel that love that Christ gave to his apostles and to the believers, where he fulfilled them and sustained them with the bread that he multiplied. And Uprita has that ability to share and to expand and to give that nourishment that people seek, and clergy are very important in this scenario, because they represent Christ. We wear the black to represent the death to our bodies and to the life of the soul. So we are always constantly in awake a tazi of our body. This is why we wear the black cassocks. And then the answer to yuqrat millat, carrying the burdens of the community. And I think you need to personify that, to say, okay, if as a clergyman, but I'm not saying that I did it well. I'm learning day by day. When you try to be there for people, to be that bread, to be that water, to be that comfort, to be that light for them through Christ, and you allow a community to really feel that foundation, that rock, because that's what people lack in today's world. They need direction. They need someone to show them the way. We're all trying to find the way. This is why in our liturgy, in our taqsa, the kahna, the priest, faces the east with the people. So I'm not facing the people as if I'm directing them and trying to move them to the right path. But with me as the first khasi al-nashid, and the people behind me, all together we're trying to achieve something that's greater.
I guess hearing your mum explain that dream to you must have been an incredible feeling.
It was.
The whole weight off your shoulders.
It was, I felt at content and at peace and confident to say, okay, Lord, you've brought me to this point, you've called me, so you need to help me. I think I got to that mindset at that point to say, okay, Modi Tawe, I'm yours. Do as you please. And I have very fond memories in Sydney serving the community. But I'm really proud of my brother who's serving in Sydney as a priest. He's continuing and growing and enhancing the ministry. And he's doing an incredible job. And I do keep him in my prayers every day, because people sometimes might forget the human that's serving. We see the darghaya, we see the kahna, we see the absquba, the metropolita, the patriarcha, but we forget the person who has to kind of, as a human being, deal with different emotions, deal with different moods and days. You go your good days, you go your bad days. But as darghaya, we need to always be consistent. It's being that consistent energy that the community needs. You can't have a bad day and show people that you're having a bad day. That doesn't work that way.
Especially in the Syrian culture.
Had a shock. Imagine that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So praise God. My brother, he's continuing the ministry, and he's growing, allowing the ministry to grow through God's grace. Or Tama, he's surrounded by incredible people, as I am.
Okay, fast forward. So you've been ordained now a priest.
Yes.
And you're serving in the community as a priest.
Yeah.
Fast forward to where we are now in London, and there's a specific reason now you're in London. So I'll talk to us about, where were you when you got that call? So you've explained where you were when you were told,
yeah,
idea. Where were you when you got the call? Where, okay, we're gonna. Okay. Is it a promotion or is it?
Do you know, Fadi? It's interesting because His Beatitude Marmilis wanted me to be in Sydney as an auxiliary bishop. as an assistant. So that was the plan.
Yeah.
And a year before my consecration as bishop, so we're talking probably Palm Sunday 2018. Yes, it was Palm Sunday 2018. His Beatitude writes to the Holy Synod. Dano, it was His Holiness Mar Awraham III.
Yeah.
He retired, of course. And said, look, Qasha Narsay is ready to be a bishop. There was technicality with my age, because by canon law you need to be 30 to be consecrated bishop. Okay. So in the years of my late 20s, His Beatitude tried to have me all consecrated earlier, but then the synod decided, no, let's just wait till he's 30. So that's the law. And when that happened in 2018, I remember I was with His Beatitude, and he said, as an auxiliary. So that was in 1 year before my consecration. A month before my Siamida, so we're talking April 2019. So we were going to Erbil. They had I wasn't a bishop then, but they had a Knushya, Holy Synod meeting, and they were going to discuss the whole Siamida of Mediana. So they had a date in place, which was the 26th of May 2019. That was my consecration date, and that was going to take place in Sydney. With the community and family and friends. One of the synod members, when they spoke about my Siamida and where I was going to be, Maramidas, of course, had written that he wanted me as an auxiliary in Sydney.
Yeah.
One of the prelates said, look, we agreed to Semikhe, bishop, but he should not be in Sydney. So that kind of put a spanner in the works, and that created a long conversation as to where I would be serving. So when I was in Erbil with Maramidas at that point, and Mar bin Yamin was there too. We travelled together. So I was in a church hall at Mar Youkhanis Church, cathedral in Erbil, in Acoe. I was waiting in the hall, and then Mar Abris, the bishop of Erbil then, and now he's the bishop of Dohok in Nuhadra.
Yes, yeah.
He came out and called me, said, Qasha, come in. Sat down, and His Holiness Mar Awraham said, look, we've discussed your Siamida, and we're all happy to all consecrate you as bishop, and we've decided to consecrate you for London and Western Europe. So for me, that was hearing it was quite an intense moment at that very second, when because they ask you, do you agree, do you accept? Of course, I didn't think twice. I said yes, of course I accept. I got up and took a blessing from His Holiness. So I was in Erbil when that happened, and then I flew back to Sydney early to prepare for the Siamida, because then all the synod members were coming to Sydney for my Siamida. So I had to go back early and organize a few last minute things before they would arrive, and then that was 26th of May was my Siamida as bishop, and 28th of June was my arrival into London. So it was just about a month after my Siamida.
And how were you feeling prior to arriving in London? Your initial thoughts on this as a city,
as a city.
Yeah.
Oh, Mum and Dad, my brothers, always knew that I loved London. Whenever we did family holidays, I would always ensure that we stopped in London for a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I always loved visiting London. And I think the language helps, because they speak English.
Probably a bit easier.
Obviously. But I've been taking English classes. It's been 4 years now. I think I'm doing okay.
Sorry, what did you say?
Don't understand.
Sometimes.
And then, language, driving on the same side of the road.
Ideal.
The right, not the wrong side.
Yes.
The right side.
Amen.
And I don't know, it's just been incredible. I really have to thank the late Qasha Yonan's family at Yonan, who opened up their home for me to live there for about a year. So Caro, she left the house, and I was there for about 11 months until we bought the Episcopion and we renovated. The Kula was a community effort. This is literally your home. And it's been It's been good. London, moving here as a city is an incredible city. And I think I would say one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Perfectly situated.
Yeah.
You've got America on that side. You've got Europe just at your doorstep. Australia's they're just a tad bit. It's about 28 hours flying.
Australia.
I feel like, I guess it's quite funny you mentioned it's convenient for Atta to visit, because we had someone from our group who was from Sydney, Anton. He makes the language content on Instagram.
Yes.
So
he's from Melbourne, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he's from. I think he is from Melbourne.
I don't know. I think
He might
Australia.
Be
we'll leave it there. And I remember Jade, he was one of the last people to turn up for our trip, and he was like, he came like a day and a half after.
He left last year and came.
And we always had this
like a zombie.
Honestly,
lack
he
of
was
sleep. And,
he was delusional eating the kebab the first night.
The best thing that I've enjoyed was when one of my good friends, Justin, was getting married in Jerusalem.
Wow.
2019, just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So there was a group from Australia that did pilgrimage. They were in Jerusalem, and it was my first trip going to Jerusalem from London. You get into a tea with about 20-30 hours of flying. Mum's with them, my family, about 150 people. And I just took a 3.5 hour flight from London direct to Tel Aviv. Same day, no jet lag. Annie doing a tea, doing a khwita. They're just so out of it. And I'm like, this is a good opportunity to I'm like, and they're like, I said, I know, even mine. It was about 3.5-4 hours. It was terrible. They're like, it's like,
Guess he was like, I had to wait in the airport longer than I was.
Yeah, that actually did happen.
Probably.
Knowing Tel Aviv.
Or you're even telling everyone, are we ready to go out, Papa?
Yeah,
it was the best. But then they put it on me when I go back to Sydney. When I'm I've got jet lag for 3-4 days.
I bet.
I can imagine. We were planning a trip to Australia next year, so we'll be dreading that flight.
Oh, right.
We are, yeah.
Holiday.
Yes.
Holiday.
I'll be coming back.
No America, no Australia. You can go on holidays, that's fine. You're not working or living in either Australia or America. So
deal.
Done.
It's on camera.
When's a good time to tell him about
You're not leaving this house.
Should we speak outside?
Daar nog gemotteren.
That is hilarious. Definitely holiday. Definitely holiday. Honestly, your story put hairs on the back of my neck. It's such a beautiful story. And now you're here, and bit of a culture shock in terms of the communities, and because we've seen through social media and through family how massive the community in Sydney is,
very established,
and very established and very close knit and supportive, and Assyrians are supportive anyway. But you come here with a smaller fraction of what Sydney is in terms of its community, and we don't have the beautiful weather. We're all in our own homes. It's cold.
I guess you're wiping a tear.
Missing this summer right now in Sydney as well.
This is summer for England.
Tell us about kind of the culture shock in terms of the fraction of the community size, the expectations, and did you have your own expectations? Did you understand kind of the situation? It's going to be very different. It's not going to be established as it was where you are. So just talk to us about that a little bit.
Fadi, coming to London in 2019, it put me in a position to really take a step back. And to kind of do an overview survey of how the community is, what we have, what ministries there are. So culture shock, I would say that, funny enough, there was no culture shock, because I feel like every time Assyrians come together, and they just, you feel at home. The day I came to London and the community came out to welcome me as my own family, and from that very second I felt, this is my family now, this is my community. So there was no culture shock in that sense, where every time I would be at church, it was my people. So it didn't feel odd. It wasn't like I was sent to a community that were non-Assyrian, let's say, at Khamindi. So that did help dramatically. I did have my own obstacles, my own challenges, settling in, normal, natural life, trying to find a place to live for the church a bit, to establish parishes, have clergy. I had Gasha Tony and Gasha Stapanos and Gasha Shmail. These were my main priests. But because Europe is so vast and so big, it's nearly impossible to get to every single corner of the continent. So I was able to ordain a very nice deacon in the Netherlands. Shemash Rimon became Gasha Shomon, which now we just bought our own church in the Netherlands, praise God. And one of my good friends, Gasha Ninos, was Shemash Ninos, who lived with me here for about 8 months, helped with the choir training. Now he's a priest in Vienna, in Austria. Another good friend, Gasha Shimshon, who was ordained with Gasha Ninos. I ordained them on the same day. It was Pentecost 2021, or 20. He's in Athens, and he's your second cousin, third cousin, second cousin. So and we've been working on formalizing our parishes, legally being registered within most of these countries, to have the status to be able to work not only at community level, but beyond that, with some of the things that I spoke to you earlier, the projects that we're doing. Challenges wise, I've always wanted a parish that I would be extremely close to as a community. In Australia and America, parts of the world, it's incredible to have thousands of members, and it's such a blessing. For me personally, it's nice that when you go to church, everyone sitting inside that church. Where this morning when I did the Raza Priqli, it was just all familiar faces. Sometimes in Sydney, because so many people, it's hard to keep up with the community and new refugees coming daily. So it was new people at church every single Sunday. So for me, I think it was a nice adjustment to be with a community. We're about 500-600 families in the UK, with a majority in West London, which is great. Numbers wise, we're actually not too bad compared to other smaller communities. This is where, with the youth ministry, children's ministry, you encourage future families to be formed, where then you retain and preserve culture, identity, language, faith, and they continue that legacy of ministry with the generations to come. I had a long think about my challenges in the past 4 years. I've had many challenges, and you've been partakers in those challenges because we went through it as a family together. I praise God that today we're at a very good place as a community. I feel that there's love and there's commitments. There's the foundation that I was longing for, and it was always there. It's just that our resources are limited. You need like other countries that have the funding to be able to have more. But in the next couple of months, we've been committed to a new church project. We've been campaigning that, trying to find the best solution for our community. Our community is growing, and the church, this morning it was a full house, last Sunday the same. So every Sunday, people are more inclined to come to church, despite the weather.
We still come through.
And then I think fellowship is so important in the community, especially at church, where people share in the heavenly bread, which is the Eucharist, but then they can also share in a rational loaf of bread together as a family. So feeding the soul and feeding the body. And I think that's where communities grow, where people socialize together. It's always, when you have a holiday with friends that you've never traveled with, you've all been high by. But then after a 3-4, you like that one?
That's a good one.
After a holiday, a 3-4 day holiday, you come back super tight with that group of people.
Yeah.
So I think retreats are really important. Youth retreats, family retreats, where people don't just spend 2 hours together at church or 3 hours, but 3-4 days. On the first
whatever
happens. Imagine just the police coming around.
me and Fadi can't go on a retreat together.
So retreats are really important. Community gatherings, family nights, just encouraging a healthy fellowship, to allow people to socialize, kids to have fun at church. Why not? For youth to have fun at church. It's a place to nurture the spirit, but also the body. He taught his disciples, he performed miracles, he showed them grace, he called them to serve, but also at the same time he sat with them, he ate with them, he laughed with them, he sang with them, he did everything with them, because they were together day and night, as a family, as an assembly. Is important. So I think the challenges that I've personally had over the past 4 years has been, for example, my thesis, trying to finish my PhD, which glory be to his name. I've passed that and just waiting for graduation. My back issues, I had massive back issues with disc herniations, had surgery, and glory be to God, I'm all well now. And just the pandemic that really delayed my ministry by 2 years with everything that I wanted to do. I remember my flight coming into London for the first time. I spent a bit of time on my phone writing a to-do list, or a list of goals for London. And I still have that note with me, and sometimes I go back to it from 4 years ago and try to see, okay, did I do that? Did I not do that?
Check to tick off a couple more.
Yeah. And I don't know. I felt that I did have a vision for London, and it's a work in progress. And in the years to come, I do truly believe that we will achieve a lot more, because our community has so much potential. We have incredible members, full of love, full of faith, and everyone's ready to work. It's just connected to how I, with my sayate as a human, how I can direct that and try to balance it with dealing with about 50 to 70 volunteers at one given time. London has a lot to offer as a church. We have the children's ministries, the kids learning Assyrian, learning about Christ. We have the youth group, and Jay is in the youth committee, and they're doing an incredible job for the youth every Friday. No, you guys are doing an amazing job. Every Thursday there's Assyrian language classes for adults over 16 that never had the chance to learn their language. We've got the seniors lunch every Wednesday, where the elderly pensioners come together to have fellowship and to eat and drink together for lunch. And you've got pastoral care. We do house visits every week. Kasha and I, we try to see as many families as we can, just to say hello, give a cross as a gift to the family, say a prayer, just to see what the community is in need of, so that we understand what is needed of us. And we need to be told, because if we aren't aware of the needs of the community, then how can we serve? So, and Darase, in English ministry, we're trying to do the English Darase. I've done a few English Darase. That's why but we do have the screens at church every Sunday morning where it's in English.
I think it's the most important point in a young person's life, where you can really build and strengthen their faith in Christ, or they detach. Because I think once you get into that, it's like high school period, I think around that time, year 8 or 9, you start to hear about things outside of your faith, and I think that's when a lot of young people get they question a lot of things,
peer pressure, and especially, and your boys, that's fine. In Abinat, they're growing older, their friends in school are wearing makeup, they're going out pretending that they're 18, 19-year-olds, for example. That pressure pushes our young girls into feeling that they need to be like that. In that process, it's so important to have direction and clarity. When you lack that, and parents try their best to give them that, when that's lacking, it can be very dangerous. And for me, it's all about meaning saving souls. It's about making sure that our church is a living church. We're worshipping the living Christ.
Yeah.
And we celebrate the oldest Qurban in the world. What a blessing for our community in Syriac and Assyrian.
You've answered a lot of the questions I was going to answer, which is amazing. It's incredible. But I want to go back to more kind of forward thinking and our future, because that's what's coming in our future. And just to say, when you first came to London, the boost the community got, where you could see the potential in what our community can do, and it's just continuing that for the future. So just to ask you, you've just mentioned the church project, which everyone's excited about. We've always said we need a bigger space, we need a bigger building to house kind of our community. Fast forward 10 years, what do you see our community looking like?
Okay, if all goes according to plan, if everything that I'm thinking about happens, 10 years time, it could be an incredible time for our community. I desperately, as a community, we do need housing for seniors, for elderly, where there's going to be a complex 1-bedroom apartments and a common room for them to socialize. Because one thing that our elderly suffer with now, especially after the pandemic, is loneliness and anxiety. So as we're sitting here talking now, there could be Khanasha Sawa from our community sitting at home, just probably watching TV, no kids, no wife. So I want to bring them, those of that type, bring them together into one place nearby the new church. So 10 years time, we can have a seniors center, an accommodation space for seniors. It will be incredible. To, of course, the growth of our tuition center that we're starting up. We've already registered it. It's called St. Mary's Education Center, or SMEC. Another acronym.
We like an acronym.
They'll start teaching on the 8th of January. Mathematics, English and Science for primary school and high school.
Incredible.
So that side project, you've got these other little things that we're working on. These will help to continue funding the community. If we get to a point financially as a church where we have the ability to buy and to grow, it'd be amazing in 10 years time to London to have the ability to buy churches in other communities within Europe, within the diocese, that don't have the financial means to be able to buy churches. So for example, you have about 120 families in France, in Marseille. So maybe as a community, financially they're not viable to be able to buy their own place. But if London's business initiatives are working and generating income, we will be able to buy a church in Marseille. It would be owned by the charity in the UK as a church, but it will be ours. Whenever they want. So in the long term, if London goes well with these projects and we see income coming in, then it'd be the seniors house, and the community hall and church is all going to be happening in the same complex at the new church in Ealing, and then it'd be buying churches across Europe where there is a need, to have chapels, churches for people to come together to worship in their own home. And so we don't need to use the churches of other denominations. Of all denominations that provide us a space to worship there across Europe. But there will come a time where we will need our own premises. So 10 years time, it could be very bright for the church. It all depends on how our community works now. If we as a community hand in hand work towards this project, this will open up many opportunities for us in the future. And to be able to make the priesthood not only something that youth might only think about as a side thing, so maybe but then they're working full-time and they can do weekends. If the church is financially stable to have the financial means to support the clergy, then we can have clergy full-time across all of Europe, and they don't have to worry about finances, because then the church will be able to support clergy when they're married with kids. That's very important. At the moment now, we're doing our best with what we have. If everything goes well here in the UK, we will be able to achieve a lot more within Europe. Next year we need to start planning our diocesan youth conference for Europe, which is something that has been on my mind for a while now. So we need your help to plan that, where we bring together all the Assyrian youth from within Europe in one place, and we have a full conference for the youth. And children's trips, they all enjoy that. And if you have any ideas for me to add to the list of goals and ideas and initiatives, I'm all ears.
We'll have to get you a new notes page on your phone.
I think so.
Start.
You just buy me a new iPhone. It's fine.
Fadi, can you?
The iPhone 15.
I'm kidding, by the way.
And I guess a question for me, or more advice, I guess. Mm-hmm. If you have anything to say to our younger Assyrian community members in terms of building and strengthening their faith, is there any sort of guidance or advice that you could provide for anyone that would be watching this?
Of course. I think that's a really, really important question, Jay, and especially in today's world. The number one thing is, the first advice would go to parents before it goes to the kids, to the youth. I remember speaking to a family once in Australia, I think, or in America, where they said, our kids aren't coming to church as much. And I said, well, how often do you go to church? And the lady said, we try at least once a month. I said, well, this is how it is. How often did your parents go to church? He said, so I said, well, do you see the pattern where your parents go to church every Sunday? You go to church every month. Your kids go to church every Easter and Christmas. So there is a big correlation there that needs to be addressed. So the first thing is, parents really need to instill faith and the church within the lives of their kids. And church starts at home. It starts with it's a first church that you attend as a person, and then they need to. The church is trying its best to create things, events, schools, initiatives for the people. So it encourages us when I see all the kids around at Assyrian school or at Bible study or at youth. I'm encouraged. I think, wow, this is great. This feeds my soul to feel, yes, when we have fellowship together, it feeds my soul to be like, this is incredible, that we're all coming together. So you do need that boost sometimes to physically see. They'll always continue for one person, for 10 people, for 100, for 1,000. It's encouraging for the church to see the community engaged with us. For the parents, it's important to support and to teach their children from the very beginning, from a young age. For the youth, I think youth are on this journey of finding direction, finding purpose. Some people, when they look up to celebrities and prominent people, there's always this thing of trying to do good and charity and helping. So that's great, of course. That's incredible for one to be able to help someone who's in need. But for us as Christians, it's, we're working towards a goal. We're not doing good just for the sake of doing good. But it's nice to see someone smile after you do something nice to them, for them. It's doing it in God's name, doing it in Christ's name, in His glory, for His honor. So young people within our communities need to realize that they have to stop searching for that energy, for that direction. They just have to turn to Christ. It's such an easy way for them to do that, because then they'll feel that fulfillment. But then, of course, they can't just say, I'm a Christian, but then they don't read the word. They don't pray. They don't fast. They don't take the qurbana. They don't come to church. So you find that there is that issue within the younger generation. Many, for example, in our churches, we'll actually go London, just generally speaking, When you take out everyone who's aged over 60, let's say, who do you have left within the church building? For example, this morning, if I take out everyone over 60, and then for me, that's always an indication of the future, the scary indication, or the possibility of what it can be. It could be that those 20 people get married, become 40, they become couples, and then they bring their kids, and the number multiplies. But it's important that some people they get to a point where they get married, and then they say, okay, now we're married, we're gonna start going to church together, and then life gets in the way, and then they have kids, they baptize them, they say, okay, and then things get in the way. So I think it's just a matter of priorities. One who wants to get fit will eat healthy, day and night. It's a journey. It's not just a once a day thing. It's every second that you put something into your body. I think it's very important for young people to see how important it is to be close to Christ, to have that confidence in Him, to have His leadership, His guidance, His voice in our consciences, always showing us the way, telling us, don't do that, do that, say this, don't say that. I think that perpetual voice that never stops within our minds is Christ always calling us to do good and to be close to Him. And as humans and as young people, we think we're going to live forever. We think we're here for eternity. When life shakes us, when we lose a loved one, when we get sick, we realize that there's much more to to how we've been thinking. So I think it's really important for young people, firstly, to seriously know Christ, not just to and say, yes, I'm a Christian. To be, how can you call yourself, how can I say I'm a son of the Youkhanis family, but then never see my family? So how can I call myself a Christian, but never be able to go into the church to sit through a 1 hour and a half raza, for example, even though some youth might think it's long, you're there worshipping God. The time should not be spoken of, should not be a subject, because you're there literally in His presence worshipping. And I hope that the youth will be engaged with that voice, to be able to live a godly life, and to come to be a part of that family. And I think that's what the main mission of the church is saving souls, is bringing people into the light. This morning we had a local neighbor come around, Sureta. Yeah, and as I was coming into church, Warewa, and she said hello, and I said, we have screens in the church. She's like, I was here 2 weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I came back.
That's
amazing. I said, great.
And
she had fellowship with our community. I guess Surah do you want to eat? It just really came on.
We get really excited when we see people who aren't Assyrian in our church.
Yeah, but I think it's so important to always have that physical reminder in life, to be committed. Just as anyone who's committed to a relationship, if you're committed to a partner, committed to family, you have to put in the work. You can't just, pretend that, I am a part of this family, but you never see your family, God yearns for us to draw near to Him, to be close to Him, to be in His house, to be worshipping together. I guess the main piece of advice would be to be a part of the family, to be there. And it encourages me personally when I see young people at church. It makes me feel like, okay, we have a bright future where there's plenty of course churches that, it's a rabba. As Al Turaya, this is the church that our forefathers have handed down to our hands, and it's been built and founded upon the blood of the martyrs. So I think it's our responsibility to give that to our kids, and for our kids to give it to their kids, and to allow that the Church of the East to always be alive and to always be thriving. the church that once had millions of members that preached Christ up until the ends of China, and that was known as the Church on Fire. You know, we need to live up to that name.
Yeah.
And I think we have a very bright future with people like you, young people like you that are so connected to your community. I pray that and that we work hand in hand to serve the gospel together, serve his people, and to bring light where darkness is, to bring food where hunger is, to bring comfort where there's loss.
That's amazing.
I was like, that's a great catchphrase.
Best way to end this, actually. To go further, and as we normally do with all of our guests, is the Gabarra of the episode, or Gabarta of the episode.
Okay.
Of who in your life right now you want to give credit to, or you want to, as we would say, shout out to say, this is the person that I want to give credit to, or give the platform to.
I think it's very difficult to choose one person. But if I was to choose, you know, there's none other than my only niece, Nina. Yeah. But yeah, of course, she's very special to me. We FaceTime. Nice. She called me at 2 a.m. last week. And I realised she's only 3 and a bit.
Wow. She can FaceTime. That's quite
impressive. The COVID babies, I'm telling you.
I'm still figuring out how to call Fadi.
So Nina's the light of the family. She brings so much love and laughter and joy, and I pray that every family experiences that and more. But yeah, Nina, she's she's very special.
3 years old. I remember when you were at our house during COVID. It was before COVID, and you were saying, "Oh, I'm excited. My niece is coming."
Yeah, right.
3 years old now.
And now in March she'll be having a sister actually.
Oh wow!
Baby number 2. Yeah.
Oh, congrats!
Another girl.
2 nieces.
So now you're gonna have to mention another Gabarra.
And Nina will always be the number one.
First one, yeah.
Of course.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. So, thank you again for letting us host it in your home.
I had a bit of talking. I had a lot of fun catching up, and hopefully we can have dinner soon.
We should.
Let's do it.
Sushi.
No,